So I'm going to create an account, and I'm going to use my school email, which is joebob@gmail. And you'll go through this. I'm not going to be able to walk you through everything because I've already set up an account, and this is not an actual email that I have. But it's pretty simple. You'll set up your account. The thing that'll throw some people off is it'll ask you, oh, are you a professional? Are you a student? It does not matter what you answer there. It's just for their own purposes to know what subset of their users are students and what they do, what not. So if there's not a right answer, just click something and continue on. Yeah, so everyone will sign in. I'm going to sign into my account here. Looks like everyone is logged in. So to download Fusion, the easiest way to do it is to go up to your profile in the top right. So this purple, mine's AG, yours is going to be your initials. And then we're going to go to products and services up near the top here. So profile, products and services, and that will show you all of the products that you have access to. If you have not set this up before, if you're not already tied into our licensing, it might not have anything here, in which case you'll download the free trial. So I'll walk you through that in a second here. Sorry, my computer's being slow. The Wi-Fi isn't working for me, so it's a hotspot for my phone. So anyone who's attached to our licensing, you should be able to scroll down and see Fusion and download. Anyone who's not already attached to our licensing program yet, you should be able to find it through Autodesk free trial button. So I'll show everyone what we just did here. So if you don't see it here, you'll just go up to the top and you'll just look up Fusion, and then you can just click free trial here, and you can set that up. It'll, like I said, it'll probably ask you some questions. What are you using this for? Are you a student or professional? It doesn't really matter what you click.
Andrew?
Yeah.
For me it says download.
Good, then download it. And then, you'll set this up here. You'll click download free trial in the top right. You'll have to do all that. It's not too hard. First time will take a little longer than normal. But what we'll do, and let me create it right now. Okay, so anyone who doesn't already have a Fusion license, I just created an assignment where you can submit your full name and email. So please do that so that I can get you attached to our licensing as soon as possible. Sooner the better. If you can do that today, please do so. Because it takes a while sometimes. Last time it took a month to get some people actually properly on the licensing. So, yeah. Does anyone not have Fusion downloaded? Everyone's got it? Cool. We're going to launch into Fusion then. Oh, I already have Excuse me. So real quick, I'll walk everyone through this, just in case you're on your personal laptop, home computer, whatever. But also follow along if you're on these computers too, just so you have an idea of layout for some of these preferences. So in the top right, you have your profile in Fusion. And I'm going to go to Preferences. And this is where you can set up all sorts of kind of back-end settings in Fusion. So really what we're mostly going to want to touch here is, I'm trying to remember where everything's at. Sorry, give me a sec here. Okay, so the only thing that you may want to touch would be under graphics. If you're feeling like it's a little sluggish on your computer, there's a handful of settings you can change. So you can change your transparency effect to better performance. You can do simple selection display. You can uncheck like wood bump if you need to, or turn off some of the canvas effects. You can turn on high resolution graphics if you want. I thought I had mine on, but I guess not. Don't do that if you're struggling with performance. They did change things a little bit since I last adjusted stuff. There used to be an adjustment for actual display performance, and it isn't there right now. So I'll look into that and see if I can figure out. Oh, here we go. At the top, I guess you can just do a preset now. So you can change it to performance if it's being a little slow. And then you hit apply and OK. Okay, I know some people haven't used Fusion before. Had some people not 3D modeled before? Raise your hand if you haven't, like 3D modeled before. No, everyone has. Okay.
What is it?
What's that?
What was your question?
If anyone hasn't 3D modeled before.
Oh, 3D.
Okay, so Fusion's relatively easy to pick up compared to a lot of other programs. It's going to lay itself out.
I was on this page, what I want to design, art design.
Okay, so some of you might be on, once it loads here, on this home page, and you can just create a new file here. I typically just use up at the top, kind of like your Chrome browser, there's tabs, and so you can just click new design, it'll make a new tab, or you can close it.
Or what is this pop-up? Do I need to make a hybrid?
Oh, Fusion just changed how they do stuff. If it's asking you if you want individual part or hybrid, either do part design or hybrid design. Don't do assembly.
I'd rather do part design.
Click create new. There you go. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about the hubs thing. Yeah, you're making a new account.
Fusion Beast. Ooh.
Yeah. It's gonna make it go faster for
How
sure.
do I get to the setting thing?
What's that? Oh, you go to your account here and then preferences, and you can change preferences if you need to. I think these computers are fast enough, you shouldn't need to touch anything. Oh, the one other thing in preferences actually that, depending on how you use stuff, if you'll be 3D printing anything, I like having my Z go up. So if you look at the cube in the top right, this is called your view cube in Fusion. And you'll notice as I orbit around, it moves, kind of giving me an orientation of where I am in relation to my model. I like to have the Z up because that's how 3D printers and CNC machines think. By default, I think it will be something else. and you can change that. If you go to your preferences, general, and then default modeling orientation. I think it defaults at Y up. You can put whatever you want. If you laser cut, CNC, 3D print stuff, I recommend Z up. If you leave it, that's fine. It will not affect, like if you're making a model and you're trying to follow along with what I'm doing, and you're like, wait, why is my Z pointing this way? It doesn't matter. In Fusion, doesn't change anything. Okay. You said you wanted us to do a wheel, Leif?
Yes, let's just do a wheel. So we have, that's going to be a little assignment.
Like a car wheel?
Car wheel, sounds good. We're working mostly with cars for this class.
Cool. All right, let's make a wheel. So let me walk you through, for starters, kind of your interface, what you're looking at here, just for those of you who haven't used Fusion before. So up at the top, you have your tools. This will kind of change contextually depending on what kind of workspace you're in and what you're doing. So you'll notice right now it has a lot of tools for creating 3D shapes. And these little icons you see at the top, these are ways to quick select tools, but there's a lot more tools underneath each drop down. You can also, when you drop them down and you click the little arrow on this bar here, you can see hotkeys next to tools. You can adjust those if you want. I've changed a couple of mine. If I say to press a key to do something and it doesn't do something, sorry, I've changed a lot of my hotkeys. I don't remember what the default ones are. Let me know if I do that. But if you want to change hotkeys, you can click on the 3 dots next to something and click Change Keyboard Shortcut. Like I explained to you, you have the view cube in your top right. This orients you as to how you're looking at your model. You can also click on individual faces or edges or corners, and it will snap you to a certain view depending on what you clicked. I like to, and it's best practice to, create your models in orientation of how you're thinking about that object in space. So we could create a wheel in 2 ways. We could create a wheel so that where we're looking at this front side of our cube, we're looking dead on and we see the, the wheel straight on. I say let's do that. But you could also design it so that it's sitting flat on the ground, not as if it's going to be on a car. So that's your view cube. In the top left, you have your browser tree. This has a lot of things that you can drop down and change stuff. One of the ones that you may want to do is document settings and then units. So we're working with car wheels, which are typically measured in inches. So I'm going to change by clicking the pencil and paper icon that pops up when I hover on units. And I'm going to change my units to inches. Cool. Has everyone changed their units to inches?
How do you change your units? Go into.
What's that?
How do you change your measurements?
Drop down document settings.
Document settings.
Click on the pencil icon next to units.
There we go.
And then, cool. We've got our units in inches. 2 more things to know of what's on your screen here. Along the bottom, you have this big bar here. You see nothing on our file here yet, because this is your history bar. So one really cool thing about Fusion, and one thing that it's always a huge deal to really understand how the history bar works. Same with history in, if you're familiar with Photoshop, you can open up your history, but this is even more powerful. So what happens often, and I want everyone to listen to this because this is one of the most common mistakes that I see, is when people create a model And like, let's say that I created my wheel to be 16-inch diameter rim. And I designed everything, and then I was like, actually, no, I want this to be a 17-inch rim. What a lot of people will do is they'll create another sketch and like add on to the rim to make it 17 inches. You don't want to do that. It gets messy, everything like, Fusion can recalculate things for you. So rather than adjusting something by adding another modification, you can go back in time using your timeline and change when I initially made my wheel 16 inches to 17 inches. And then as soon as you do that, you'll finish, your little sketch that you made that in, and then it's gonna automatically update the rest of your model. What's up?
Do you mean like don't just like extrude it out an inch?
Yeah, so like, let's say, okay, so I'm pulling up this other thing that I have been working on. These are just some templates that I was using to cut some like frames for some speakers that I'm building. But like, let's say that I decided that this was actually supposed to be, an inch thick instead of a half an inch thick. What a lot of people will do is they'll come in, they'll extrude another half an inch, which, yes, that works. And right here, it's not really gonna break anything. But if I had a lot more, going on, that can throw stuff off. So rather than extruding that an additional half inch, what I can do, and one other tip, so you can see I have a bunch of stuff down at the bottom bar because I've created stuff on this file. If I click on something, it'll show with these little 3 blue tick marks where that face was created. So in this case, I click on this face here and I see, oh, this is from this extrusion. I can just double click on this down in my history bar and it'll allow me to edit it. So rather than doing a half an inch, I can change that to be 1 inch. And then I can hit enter and it will load for a second because it recalculated everything that I did after that initial extrusion. And then now it's adjusted it. You can also go back in time by dragging this little time marker. So I went back in time to before I added in another file. And you can...
How about changing the radius, for instance, on
great question. Let's say that I realized, wait, this is the wrong radius. Rather than, creating a new sketch on top of it, and drawing a different radius and then extruding that, what I can do instead is I can go back to the original sketch that I made and change the radius itself. So I can change that to 27 millimeters, and then that will adjust it. It ends up being a lot cleaner. As you get into more and more complex models, this is not a very complex model, not the best one to really show this on, but you'll have a history bar that will go longer than your display actually shows, and you'll have to scrub through it. So the less adjustments you can make, because every time I tack on, like you see how right now my most recent one was an offset faces. Anytime you tack on another, edit, it tacks on another little bit in your bar here, and that gets really busy really quickly. And so the less you can do that, the cleaner your model will be. And then once you get to either working with a team, whether that's in school or in the work field, people will hate you if they're trying to work on your file that you sent them, to them. And this is just like miles long and nothing makes sense. The shorter you can keep this, the easier it is for someone else to read, the easier it is for them to make adjustments if they need to, and not have to reach out to you, and then you have to get on your computer and fix it for them. And you have to figure out too, half the time, where you created this feature of your model. So keep it simple. Go back in time if you need to fix something. I typically am only creating new sketches or new extrusions for something that's not already, like a feature that's not already in my model. A lot of yapping, a lot of talking, but if you can get in the habit of keeping your history browser nice and tight, nice and compact, that's ideal.
So Andrew, let's do another 15 minutes, then we'll take a break, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Let's start making the wheel. So there's a lot of different ways we can make a wheel. I'm going to show you probably one of the easiest. So let's just let me pull up a reference photo here. All right, so I'm going to do something simple for now. Let's just do this wheel here. So one of the ways to model this, there's a lot of ways you can do this, but probably the best way to model this wheel, yeah, you got a question?
Yeah, is there a search bar in Fusion where I can just like search up, extrude or revolve?
No, yeah, there isn't, at least that I know of.
You hit S, and you can type in whatever you want.
There you go.
You hit what?
S.
Let's see. Oh, nice.
That's the beauty of teaching. You learn.
There you go. I know, I learned, that's the best part. Like, I've used Fusion for like 10 years now, and I knew one way to do everything until I started teaching it, and now I know 4 ways to do everything. So whoever said that, thank you. I was not aware of that. Going back to the wheel, though, a lot of ways you could build this. This wheel in particular, there's kind of in a simple sense, one good way that we could make this. We can make it more complex, which we can down the line. But today, for starters, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to imagine if we cut this wheel in half, so it was like 2 semicircles, like 2 orange slices. And then if you looked at it from the side of your orange slice, I don't really know. Let's see. Perfect. Sliced like this. So we're going to imagine that we've sliced it in half, and we're going to draw out basically this profile here, and then we're going to create what's called a revolve, and we're going to rotate that around an axis to create that outer rim of your actual car wheel.
Let's keep it as a U, simple U.
What's that?
A simple U.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that crazy. So I'm going to go to, I forgot I have Fusion already open. I hate that it does that. So if we want that wheel to be, if we want to be looking right at the spokes of the wheel as the front side of our drawing, but right now we're drawing a profile section of it. We're going to create that. Let's just put it on the top here. So I'm going to rotate around so I'm looking down on the top, and I know that my front face is to my right here. And I'm going to create a sketch. And when you click Create Sketch in the top left, it's going to pop up with your origin here. And you'll have some origin planes. Typically, that's what you're going to use. So we're going to use this origin plane, the X is Y plane. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to create a sketch, and I'm going to have a whole different contextual environment up top here. So most of what we're going to do today will just be in the Create menu in the top left. We can, down the line, mess around with modifications, but of these, I typically, in the Sketch tool at least, try and only use a couple of them. Some of them are a little finicky. So let's do a 16-inch wheel. Yeah, let's do a 16-inch wheel. So 16-inch diameter, so we're going to have an 8-inch radius. Let's start by just making a simple line. So I press L on my keyboard. You can also click on the line segment tool on the top left. And I'm just going to place this anywhere. I'm putting it off to the right of, this is called your origin point here. And I'm just going to drop this guy here. And I'm going to type, you'll notice that I have my, if you look on my screen, I have 1.429 highlighted in blue. Let's make this wheel 7 inches wide. So I'm going to type 7, and then I'm just making sure, if I zoom out here, you'll notice how as I move my cursor, it will snap to 90 degrees. I want this to be 90 degrees. Cool. I'm giving a lot of info to you all at once, but you'll notice that this line's blue. That means it's not fully constrained. And you'll notice if I click and hold on it, I can drag and move it around. Best practice is to always have your lines fully constrained. They'll turn black once they are constrained. So this is going to be the outer rim. I'm not even going to create a U-shaped profile. We're going to keep this really simple. So I'm going to dimension. I'm going to press D on my keyboard. You can also click on this little goalpost icon up in the top here. But I press D, and I'm going to click on, first I'm going to click on the line that we just created, and then I'm going to click on the center origin point here. And then I'm going to click once more to place the dimension, and it'll automatically open up that dimension and allow me to adjust it. So we want a 16-inch wheel, but this is going to be the radius of it. So we actually want this to be 8 inches. One cool thing about Fusion is you can do math within your kind of inputs here. So I type 16 and just type the slash and then 2. So 16 divided by 2 is going to give me an 8-inch dimension there. Is everyone following along? What's up?
Is there a way to make your item never mind.
If it comes to you, let me know.
How do you move the line?
What's that?
How do you move that over?
Oh, so you create it on the original point. How do you do that?
Okay. Great question. I'm going to show everyone. So if you were to have created that first line attached to your origin point, I need to get some water. You'll notice that you're not able to move it around. That's because Fusion tries to be helpful, and it usually is helpful, about automatically constraining your drawings. So because I created it coming off of your origin point, you'll notice when I've selected the line, and then I hover over the origin point, you see this little icon shaped like an L that pops up. It's automatically constrained, this line, and this L shape is telling me that that has a coincident constraint on it. So if I click on that, and now that little L shape icon is highlighted blue, I can just press delete, and now this is no longer constrained to that origin point. Does that make sense? Let me do it one more time. So I created this line. Fusion has automatically given me a constraint. It's this little L shape here. And I can just click on that constraint and delete it. And now it'll let me move this around. So that's what those little icons are. You see this little comb-shaped one next to both of these. Those are constraints. Those are applied via this like center of your toolbar up top or automatically by Fusion. Super useful, super important to know how to use. And we'll get into that eventually, but I don't want to do too much right now. Okay, so one other thing that we want to do, actually I am going to use one of those constraints right now because we're going to need to. So I want this bottom point of my of this line to be on the red axis line. So probably the easiest way to do that is just get it close, drag it close to it, and then we're going to use the horizontal vertical constraint. So that's what you already see on this line here. It's forcing it to be perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical, vertical in this case. So that works for lines, but you can also pick two points, and have them be horizontal or vertical from each other. So if I click on my horizontal vertical constraint up in the top center of my toolbar here, and then I click on the center origin and the bottom point of this line, it's going to automatically snap it into place. And now they're perfectly horizontal with each other. Does that make sense? Is everyone there? Everyone's following along? What's up?
How do you know that it's like exactly on the point? Is it like indicated somewhere?
What's that?
Like how do I know that bottom right point is exactly on 0?
Because you constrained it. So that's what this constraint does. This center one is automatically in any sketch you have. It's your origin point. And if I didn't have that constraint, then it might not be. Then it might look like it is, and we might, let me move this a little bit. It might look like it's on the line, but it's not. One other way to tell, you notice how the points on either end of this line segment are white? That means they're not constrained. So these don't have a set place in space that they are until I do a constraint with them. So in this case, I did the horizontal vertical between these 2 points. So now it's stuck together. One thing to note, that's going to automatically do that constraint to whatever it's closest to being. So let's say that this dimension wasn't here, and I was doing the horizontal vertical constraint, but my point was up here, closer to the y-axis. If I did that constraint, it's going to snap it to whatever it's closest to. So it'll snap it to being vertical, whereas if it's closer to the x-axis, it's going to snap it to being horizontal with it. So you want it to be close-ish, and then you just use the constraint, and that'll put it right in the spot that it should be. All right. Lots of words. We only have one line. Let's speed this up a little bit. So let's just create, I'm going to press L on my keyboard to create some lines here. I'm just going to move this out of my way so that you can see what I'm doing a little better. And let's just create a couple line segments here. So I'm going to go over, let's do 1/2 inch. So I type 0.5 on my keyboard and hit enter. And I'm going to do the same from the bottom edge here, 0.5 inch. And then once we're there, we're just going to go ahead and go up 1 inch, let's say, from that line segment. So you should have what almost looks like a bent staple so far. And then we're going to come from the top left point down, let's say, 4.5 inches. Is everyone here? Everyone has this mostly complete rectangle shape that I have? Cool. All right. Sweet. So let's go back to our photo here. So we're going to imagine that this was sliced along one of the spokes of the wheel. So we also want to draw in that profile and like the center hub of the wheel. So, oh, I keep launching the wrong fusion. Let's see. Let's use a spline. So, oops. Up in the create menu, it may be visible up top here. You may need to drop down create and find spline. We're going to use the fit point spline. And we're just going to go ahead and create a spline with 3 points. One thing, let's do 4 points actually. One thing to keep in mind when you're using splines, less is more. The fewest amount of points you can have on the spline, the better. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to create it one more time. I'm going to make a spline again. I'm going to connect, basically I'm going to click here, I'm clicking twice before connecting it to that center origin point.
Like this?
Yeah. So, really the only thing that matters other than stylistically right now is this is essentially going to be mirrored, right? And it's going to be mirrored about your y-axis because this is going to get revolved everywhere, all the way around. So if you have this line coming in and ending at like a point, it's going to have like a kind of a sharp little indent at the center of your wheel. So really the only thing that matters other than you picking out the style of your wheel is you notice all the little handles that appear on your spline whenever you click on the points. I'm going to click on this endpoint, and then once this little handle pops up, I'm going to click on that handle, and then I'm just going to click the horizontal vertical constraint, and that'll snap it to being horizontal. That's going to make sure that when we go ahead and revolve our rim, this flows nicely across the face of the rim. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, I'm going to create one more 4-point spline kind of coming up the back here. Just go down. And then once I'm done, I'm clicking the little check mark that appears. I think you can press enter as well. So you should have another spline. I'm not going to have mine matching perfectly. That's okay because typically the center of the wheel hub is not, it's a little thicker than the actual spokes. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to click on that final point on that spline so that my handle pops up. I'm going to click on the handle and I'm going to lock it horizontal. Splines are not something that's realistic to fully constrain, just because there's so many variables going into them. So once you're happy with the shape of your spline, so I'm going to kind of drag some of these points around. You can click the points and you can rotate and you can kind of change the weight, the tangency weight of the point on the spline. I can just go ahead and select. I'm going to click one, I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to select the other one, and then I'm just going to click fix on my constraints up top. And so that will make it so that those won't get moved around until I unfix them and move them myself. So I'm going to do that one more time, I'm going to undo that. I just selected, click one, hold shift, select the other one, and then click fix. And now it turns green. So that spline isn't going to change on you randomly if you were to change, let's say, the diameter of your wheel. Okay. What's that?
For me, it's fixed.
Cool. All right. One last line. We're going to connect the two endpoints of our splines here so that we make one solid shape. You'll notice as soon as I connected those 2 points with that line segment, this whole shape went blue. If your shape doesn't turn slightly blue, it's kind of hard to see on the projector, huh? It means it's not fully closed. So, I'm going to change one thing before we finish our sketch. So I was thinking while we were talking, just during the break, and I was like, wait a minute. This needs a flat surface that the wheel sits on that you bolt it to on the hub. And this curves into it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. You can, if you want to. If you already like how some of this is curved, what you can do instead is you can click on it and you can unfix it so that it goes from green to blue. And then, speaking of constraints, you'll notice when I hover over this point here, the little L-shaped constraint pops up. And that's the coincident constraint. So that's saying that, hey, the two endpoints of these lines are occupying the same spot. If I click on that and press delete, it'll let me go ahead and drag them around and separate them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna move all this over a little bit. And I'm gonna create a new line segment. I'm gonna press L on my keyboard. I'm gonna go from this point to that point there. And the only thing is I want this to be horizontal, so I'm going to click on that line segment we just made, and then I'm going to click on the horizontal vertical constraint. So now I have an actual flat surface for this to bolt onto the hub of your axle for your car. And then I'm just going to go ahead and refix. I'm going to click on both of these. I'm going to hold shift and click on both, and I'm going to just click the fix lock icon. Okay, you should have kind of a blue filled in shape here. If it's not blue, that means you have an open hole somewhere. One thing to know, so on the right hand side with your sketch palette, your viewport can get really busy and really messy, and especially if, like, let's say that this was, you know, an incomplete you know, not filled in shape. Like, let's pretend that I missed the fact that these weren't connected here. You can just turn off visibility for stuff. So I can just turn off visibility on dimensions. I can turn off visibility of constraints, turn off visibility of points, and didn't turn them off for points. And kind of clean up your view a little bit so that you can more easily go around and notice, oh, hey, this is where it's not connected. So in this case, what I'm going to do, because that's happened to me, is I'm going to click on one, hold shift, and click on the other. And then I'm going to do the coincident constraint, which connects them. And now I have a solid shape, and it's highlighted blue. Okay, everyone has a highlighted blue solid shape? Yeah, what's up?
So what do we do if it didn't save and deleted everything?
What's that?
What do you do if it didn't save and deleted everything?
If it didn't save.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the preferences that we should have adjusted. If you go up to preferences in the top right, let me find where it is at. Somewhere in here is the auto save, like interval.
Is it automatic save on close? Automatic recovery backup interval?
What's that?
Is it automated recovery backup interval?
Up on the beginning of the general, that's like
General.
like almost like
Yes, that's it. What's that? I have mine set to autosave every 5 minutes. You can set it to whatever you want. Another thing, if you're on your home computer or like your laptop, you can set it to also automatically save it locally on your computer. And it will have locally cached files, but I think it's a good idea to, and in a little bit, I don't remember off the top of my head how to change this setting. I'll look into it and I'll tell you guys. But having it so that when you save it, it not only saves your complete file to Fusion's servers, because it does that by default. By default, everything you save is saved on their servers, not on your computer. The downside to that is if you somehow lose access to this account, so once you graduate, whatever, you would lose access to all your files. And so I'll double check. I don't remember off the top of my head how to make it save to your computer as well, just in case, as like a backup. Save it on your hard drive. For now, I changed the automatic backup interval to 5 minutes. Were you doing it, had you downloaded it, or were you in a web browser?
I downloaded it.
Really? And it like quit and,
It literally, like, I was.
oh, the
I hit-
computer turned off?
I hit save,
Yeah.
and then it just, like, the screen blanked out. And then
Yeah.
So one of my handles got stuck on the point. How do I fix that? So this point right here is attached to the other handle.
Oh, so you see the little L icon that popped up? You just gotta click on that. And then press the So click on the point again.
Crash and burn.
Click on that.
Like we crash and burn.
Now, go ahead and okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish Sketch. And then we're gonna use the Revolve tool. So I'm gonna click on Revolve up here. It's also drop down Revolve, about a third of the way down, a quarter of the way down. And then it's gonna automatically select our profile because it's the only profile, so it knows that. And then you're just gonna be selecting what axis it's rotating itself about. So I'm gonna click on that axis there, that's the Y axis. And now it's creating like a big old solid shape. You know, kind of a rim without any spokes in it. Or with one solid spoke, if you want to look at it that way. So I'm going to do that one more time. You click on Revolve. Once you've finished your sketch, you'll click on Revolve. And then all you need to tell it is which axis it's rotating around, which is going to be, in my case, the green axis, but you want this edge here. And then you'll have this dome circle shape. All right, everyone's got this shape. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And then we're going to go ahead and create another drawing that we'll use to cut out essentially the negative space for the spokes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a sketch. And you've got a couple options when you're creating a sketch when you already have a shape in your model. So in this case, because this front lip is flat, I could create it on there. It also automatically turns on visibility of your origin planes. I'm going to use the origin plane. It's a good habit to be in, especially for something like this where we're just making a cut that goes fully through something, just creating it on one of the origin planes. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and it starts a new sketch. All right. So now we have a new sketch we've created on the ZX origin plane, so we're looking dead on straight at the shape here. So first thing I'm going to want to do is I want to have this circle included as part of this sketch that we're creating. So super powerful tool, super useful to know is the project tool. If you drop down and create, second to last one, project, or you can press P on your keyboard. If I click on that, I can click on any geometry in my model, and it's going to project that to being in my sketch. So I'm going to click on this circle here. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to turn off visibility for the bodies right now, just to make everything super clean visually. I just have this circle that I'm working off of. Is everyone with me? Where are you at? Oh, one thing that I didn't verbalize, when, like, just to get around the program, your mouse scroll wheel, if you click it in, it's a button. So you're not spinning it, you're just clicking it down. If you click and hold down and move your mouse around, it'll pan. And if you do that same thing while holding your shift key, it will orbit. You don't want to see it anymore? Just click the eye next to the bodies. Yeah, so for anyone who missed it, I turned off the visibility on that body that we already created just by clicking the eye next to bodies. So this works as like a tree. So if there were more bodies here, I could just turn off individual bodies. We only have one, and I just turned off all visibility of all bodies. Cool. So now we have that. I'm going to turn visibility of bodies actually on one more time.
Well, whatever I did mine, everything disappears. I got, my blue line is, highlighted. So, my blue line's highlighted. And then-
Oh, no, so we created a sketch. Created a new sketch. Click on our face. Yeah. So.
It actually works on mine, see?
And then what we do is press P for project. And then you just click on just click on the inner ring. There you go, like that. And then you go here. And then now you can turn off the bodies. There you go. Cool. Okay, so one more thing that I thought about is we actually also want to have that center hub in this sketch. So I've turned visibility of bodies back on. I'm going to rotate around till I can see the back side of this shape. I'm going to press P again for project. I'm going to click on that back circle as well. So now you should have like a donut shape when you click OK. And turn off body visibility.
The inside box is one, right?
What's that?
The inside box?
Yeah, the back.
How did you make that?
So let me undo it and do it one more time. So with the visibility of the bodies back on, I press P for project. It's also under the create menu near the bottom. And then I rotated around looking at the back side of my wheel, and I clicked on this circle
How
here.
did you do, how do you,
I don't have that.
I don't have it.
So that circle, that was the one where I adjusted my my drawing when I was talking about how the hub needs something flat to sit against. If you don't have it, don't sweat it too much. Just keep following along. You can just create an arbitrary sized circle
So I just.
in the center of it. So I'm going to turn body visibility off. Let's pretend that I didn't have that flat face to create that shape off of. I could just press C for circle and
This?
then just create a circle however large you think, seems fit.
Perfect.
Okay. So we got our donut shape. Now let's go ahead and draw out one of the spokes, and we're actually going to be drawing out one of the negative spaces between the spokes. So this was my kind of reference. We'll roughly stick to it. So it's basically like almost like a triangle that runs into the center hub circle. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm just going to go ahead and if I want to make a concentric circle with this circle, there's a couple ways you could do that. You could just draw a circle and start at the same center point. You could also offset this circle. I press O on my keyboard. I don't remember if that's a default command or not. If it's not, it's the offset tool under modify. And then I can offset that down, let's say -0.25 or something.
Offset to 0.25?
Yeah. And then because we want this shape to be perfectly symmetrical, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw out what's called a construction line. So one thing that you may have noticed so far, right, is when we have a shape fully complete with solid lines, if you were to divide that in two with another solid line, it divides that into two different shapes here. If you don't want it to divide this in two, like it is right now, if I change this line that's dividing it in half to a construction line, so you can toggle any line by selecting it and pressing X on your keyboard. Now it's dashed, and now see how it reads this as one solid shape. So this is great for like using it as a construction line, like using this as, in this case, we're going to use it as a center line. So I'm going to delete all this because you don't need to make that. And I'm going to draw up a line that goes from the center point up to the top edge of the purple circle. And then I'm going to select it and press X on my keyboard so that it becomes dashed. So selecting any line and pressing X will toggle it. So let's say I decide, actually, no, I want to make this a solid line again. I can click it and press X. Is everyone with me? Cool. Okay, so we're using this as the center line to mirror a perfectly symmetrical, like, trapezoid shape about. So let's go ahead and we're going to offset. Actually, no, we're not going to offset. I changed my mind. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create a line segment. We're going to press L for line, and we're going to draw a line that just goes from here to here. Don't need to make any dimensions, just make it roughly like mine is here.
Like that?
And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to mirror. So you got your mirror tool up in the top left. You can drop down, create, and click mirror if you don't see it up in the top bar. And then when you use a tool, it'll pop up a little dialog box. And so right now it says objects, and then it says select next to it, and that's highlighted blue. So right now it's waiting for me to select the objects that I want to mirror. So in this case, it's just this one line. And then I need to tell it, okay, now I'm going to click on where it says select, that's gray next to mirror line. And that tells it, okay, now I'm going to tell you which line to mirror that over. So I'm going to click on that dotted line that we just, or dashed line that we just made. And then you'll see it kind of grays it in here. And then I can click OK. And then now I have this shape. Kind of trapezoid, curved trapezoid, whatever. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. So I've gone ahead and finished sketch. I have this shape here. It's almost like a Pac-Man kind of dude. And then we're going to go ahead. We're going to turn body visibility back on so you can see everything. And then we're going to use the extrude tool. This is like one of the most basic tools. You need to know. What's up?
Might still got the dash.
All right. So everyone's finished their sketch. They have visibility back on. We're going to go ahead and we're going to extrude this shape that we've just created. So I'm going to press E on my keyboard for extrude. You can also select extrude up here in the top left. And we're going to go ahead and extrude this guy. I'm just going to go, you'll notice right now it's kind of getting, it's not slicing this direction. So in your dialog box under extrude, you can change the direction to 2 sides. And then let's change them to the extent to all. Yes, so I've changed my direction from 1 side to 2 sides. And then for both sides of the extrusion, I've changed the extent type to all. And then we could, if we wanted to, make a super simple wheel. We could leave this at cut. But I'm actually going to change this to new body because I want to make a couple changes to the shape of this cutout. So you should have extent type all for both of them. That's just going to go as far as it's intersecting a body. You could also put in numerical values under distance. So you should have a new body. You don't want this to join in and join to that same body. And then you want it to go both sides. I'm going to click OK. Cool. I'm going to turn off visibility of body 1. So I've got this shape here. So I just wanted to, the reason I didn't extrude and cut it is because I want to round out the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fillet a couple corners before I, oops. So I'm going to select these 4 corners of this shape. And this is the shape we're going to use to cut a hole. This is going to be your cutting tool. I'm just rounding out those edges there. So I'm going to round those, I don't know, 0.5 inches. Let's do 0.35 inches. And I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to turn on visibility of this body. Now, what I'm noticing is this guy is not coming all the way through, which I'm going to need it to if I want it to cut a hole all the way through. So going back to the whole conversation earlier about using history to your advantage rather than, it would be really tempting right now for me to just go ahead and hit an E to extrude and make this longer. But it's bad practice to do that. Rather than do that, I'm going to go back to my extrude when I created that. And I'm just going to drag this out a little farther. That direction. And then if I click OK, you'll notice it's going to automatically update. It's still going to have the fillets that we made. It's just going to come out a little farther this way.
I might need.
What's that?
How do you extend that though?
So I went back. I double clicked on the extrude where we created that shape. And then I just dragged out the arrow next to it a little farther this way. Yeah, however far you want to go. Just make sure it fully, cuts through everything. And then click OK.
Mine is set to 1.
What's that?
Mine is at 1.
Sure, that's great. Okay, we only have one of these. We want a lot of them. So we're going to make a radial pattern of these. So I'm going to drop down Create. And I'm going to find Pattern. And then I'm going to go to Circular Pattern. Does everyone see that? Create pattern, circular pattern.
Create pattern, circular pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And then use this.
And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to select that cutting tool body that we've created. And then I'm going to tell it that I'm going to select the axis. I'm going to select that green center axis. And so now I can change the value however many of these I want. So,
Let's do
I'm going to do 10, but you can do however many you want.
I'll put it at 10.
Really what you want to make sure is that you don't have the corners of them overlapping.
I put mine at 10 as well.
Okay. So now I got 10 of those, and now I want to use all of these to cut a hole, or cut 10 holes through our rim blank. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use the Combine tool. This isn't just for combining, even though it's called Combine. I'm going to click on that, and this is going to have me select the target body, so the one we want to affect, and I'm going to select our rim blank. And then now it's going to wait for me to select all of the tool bodies, so the cutting bodies in this case. I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these. Oops. Here.
How do you do that though? I press OK on this thing, and then what?
I'm in the Combine tool.
Combine? There?
Yeah.
The whole thing? Alright.
So our target body was the wheel blank, and then their tool bodies are each of those little cutting pieces, and then you just want to make sure that your operation is set to cut, which is what mine is highlighted right here, so it's the little red box on it. And then I'm going to turn off keep tools because I don't need these bodies anymore. If I left that checked, it would cut this, but it would also leave each of these bodies as its own body. I don't need them anymore, so I'm going to just turn that off. Your defaults will probably be join and this unchecked. So if you've got operation cut and then keep tools turned off, I'm going to click OK.
But how do I cut the, but
Cool. You clicked OK?
this one is selected as blue, but are the cut ones purple?
Yeah. They're red. Looks like yours might not have cut all the way through.
It's not
So we're going to go ahead and edit this Fusion. We're going to drag it back one farther than one inch.
okay.
Probably even more than that sketch. You'll just come all the way through that. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, now click OK. There you go.
Look at that. Someone's gonna hate you when they go to do cars.
All right.
What?
It's like that.
Cool. So we're pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and save it real quick. You got your little floppy disk icon up in the top left. You should have saved it before you got into this point. And then you'll go ahead and save it as whatever you want. I'm not going to save it because
I'll make it
I don't need it.
How do we save it? Like the computer or the because I save it, but it's on the computer. If I want to save it
Locally? So if you wanted to save it locally, like as a file that you can move around, you can drop down the file paper icon and export. And then you're going to want to export it as the .f3d. Yeah.
how do I save?
Click the floppy disk icon.
No, I mean like, what should I put it under?
Wherever you want to. Name it whatever you want. But going back to Fusion being a history-based design program, that's super useful because now that I've created my wheel, let's say that I decided like, oh, actually, I want to change the curvature here. I can just go back and I can edit that, the first sketch, not the second one. And I can unlock both of these and I can change up how my whole thing is shaped. So I can say here, there, drag that out, and then slim these up. And then let's say that I also decided, oh, I want to actually move this guy, let's see. Inward a little bit.
I named my new folder as industrial product design found.
Cool. All right, so now I can edit everything. I can finish the sketch, and Fusion's going to recalculate everything, and it's going to make this curvature more prominent, and it'll move this back like I did in that first sketch. So that's why it's really important to go back in time and adjust when you originally made a shape rather than like trying to tack on additional moves to change it up. I'm going to save. What time does this class end?
8.
Perfect. Okay, so 7:45.
No, this is great. It gives us a little time, a lot of information if you're new to Fusion.